You probably know someone like this. Maybe it is even you. They are the person in the room who watches everything, observing with quiet intensity. They laugh at the right moment, remembering tiny details about people they have only met once. They show up for others in ways that feel almost unsettling in their precision. They seem to know you, and yet if you tried to get really close, you would feel something. A wall, not rude or cold, just a ceiling on how deep things ever go. People who do not trust anyone are not who you think they are. The stereotype is the paranoid loner, the cynic who rolls their eyes at everything. The person who assumes everyone has an agenda. But the psychology is different. The psychology underneath chronic distrust rarely looks like that stereotype. It looks like someone who is extraordinarily good at relationships on the surface. Someone who gives, adapts quickly, and makes you feel seen, while quietly making sure you never get close enough to hurt them. It is architecture, built over years, a system of protection. What is often misinterpreted about trust is that it is not a personality trait. Trust is a conclusion, a learned conclusion, not something you are born with. The nervous system draws this conclusion based on evidence collected early on. John Bowlby, the psychologist who developed attachment theory, spent decades documenting this. He showed how early relationships essentially become the brain's working model for all future connections. Like a neural template, the question of whether it is safe to depend on people gets answered. Once the nervous system has an answer, it defends that answer. So when someone grows up in an environment where the people who were supposed to be safe were not, where care was inconsistent and love came with conditions that kept changing, perhaps the person you ran to for comfort was also the source of the threat. The brain does not only conclude those specific people were unsafe. It concludes something much broader, that people in general are unsafe. And that conclusion gets carried forward into every friendship, every relationship. Every moment where someone gets just close enough that the old information starts screaming. What happens inside someone who does not trust is an exhausting negotiation between what they want and what they believe is possible. People who do not trust anyone almost always want that connection. The need does not suddenly vanish. The capacity for love does not shrink. What does shrink is the belief that letting someone in is survivable. Living with that mindset every day can get exhausting. You meet someone you genuinely like, and there is this brief, almost electric moment of hope. Something in you starts looking for the catch. Your brain has already run this before, and it knows exactly how it ends. So it starts scanning for inconsistency, the small lie. For the moment they show you who they really are. The cruelest part is that the scanning itself can create distance. That looks to the other person like disinterest, like you do not care. When the reality is quite the opposite. Psychologist Jennifer Fried coined the term betrayal trauma to describe what happens when the source of harm is someone they depended on. What makes this trauma distinct is that the brain suppresses the awareness of the betrayal. You learn to not know what you know and explain it away. See, when you do that long enough, you stop trusting your own perception, which is maybe the most insidious part of all of this. Because now the distrust does not just point outward, it points inward. Am I reading this wrong? Am I too sensitive? Maybe I am the problem. People who grew up having their perceptions systematically invalidated often become hypervigilant. They read rooms with frightening accuracy, then immediately second-guess everything. That is not a character flaw. It is what happens when your internal compass gets scrambled. The behavioral patterns that emerge from all of this are fascinating and heartbreaking. Some people become avoidant, keeping relationships deliberately shallow. They are the ones who get weird when things start getting serious. Some go the opposite direction and become anxiously attached, hypervigilant through proximity. Always monitoring, always testing, never quite settling. And then there are people who oscillate between the two. From the outside, it can look like manipulation, like they are playing a game. But for them, it feels like drowning. What matters most is how ferociously loyal they are when they do let someone in. Deciding to trust someone is an act of profound courage. It is the slow stranger work of figuring out which walls you actually still need.